can I just say one thing firstly? I love the name Eat Sleep Boxing Repeat.
Welcome back to ESBR Boxing's YouTube channel. Delighted to be joined by Elliot Grigg, which means, of course, we're in preview mode. Ben Whittaker, Benjamin Gavazi, his matchroom debut, the surgeon, in Birmingham on November 29th, a light heavyweight contest. And yeah, we're on to give a quick preview, as we always like to do, including our thoughts and predictions and just a few other pressing topics surrounding Ben Whittaker. But before we get into it, please do subscribe to our YouTube channel if you're not doing so already. Drop us a like on the video. Let us know in the comments what we're about to discuss. But yes, as I mentioned, Elliot, without further ado, we are going to discuss Ben Whittaker's matchroom debut against Benjamin Gavazi in Birmingham on November 29th. So yeah, give me your initial thoughts and a quick prediction for this one, please.
Yeah, firstly, thank you for that eloquent introduction as always. I think, look, I mean, Ben Whittaker's got a lot of hype, hasn't he? He's got a lot of money and investment going into him here. Like you say, it's his matchroom debut, so I'd be absolutely stunned if Ben Whittaker didn't win this, to be perfectly honest with you. I think I'm not claiming to be any way of a hardcore fan of Benjamin Gavazi, but I had a cursory look at his box record, so he's a bit of a puncher in the sense he's got 13 KOs in 19 fights, and I think, to be honest with you, if he's going to get any sort of victory out of this, he's going to have to stop Ben Whittaker. To be perfectly honest, I think that's the only chance he's going to be given. I think Ben Whittaker himself, it's a hard one because you look at both of them, they haven't really fought anyone, either of them, between them. Liam Cameron, obviously, for Ben Whittaker last time out in a couple of fights, but let's be honest, Liam Cameron didn't impress recently either in his last time out either. So the ceiling is, I think, quite low if you're going to use sort of Cameron as a sort of to sort of a measure against. So I think it's a hard one, but I think for me the question really is Ben Whittaker's going to win. Will he get a stoppage? Will it be on points? I can actually see this is a matchroom debut, so he's going to want, I suppose, make an impression. It's a 10 rounder. I mean, I think this could be a Whittaker points, to be honest with you. I do. I think there's a possibility he may get a late stoppage, but I actually can really see. I think Ben Whittaker, we've kind of seen kind of where Ben Whittaker currently is. I don't think it's necessarily as high as the hype at this current moment in time, even though he's got a lot of obviously time to improve and get better. So I think I'm actually going to go with Whittaker points in this one.
Interesting, mate. Yeah, very, very interesting. I'm going to go with Whittaker stoppage. And what I can see the points you've made there about a prediction. The reason I'm going for a stoppage is, I mean, I don't actually think Ben Whittaker is like a concussive puncher. Like, he's not a massive, massive puncher in the light heavyweight division. But Gavazi, it's one of them where, yeah, we haven't watched him extensively. Let's be honest, we haven't watched him at all, have we? Anybody really? He's 19-1, and yeah, he looks like a bit of a puncher himself on paper. See, of those 19 wins, only five of those fighters. Sorry, he's only faced five fighters with winning records. So out of his 20 fights, only five of them have had a winning record. Like, everybody else has been a journeyman, basically. Um, which is alarming for me. So like, he's probably, hence why he's got a load of stoppages. Um, I don't see Benjamin Gavazi posing any sort of threat to Ben Whittaker whatsoever, and I would be baffled if Ben Whittaker doesn't get the stoppage. Doesn't get the stoppage, to be perfectly honest. As I said, I don't think it's a huge puncher Whittaker, but I just think Gavazi, um, yeah, without being totally disrespectful, I just think he's not on Ben Whittaker's level. But we shall see, I suppose. We'll find out on November 29th in Birmingham. But yeah, just a couple of quick extra questions I want to ask you, Elliot. Following on from what you and I have said there, we both expect Ben Whittaker to win. Do you? There's been talk. There's quite a lot of really good light heavyweights in Britain across, like, from various different levels. You've got obviously your likes of Callum Smith, Anthony Yard, Boatsi, Zach Parker, all those guys, and you've obviously got your Willie Hutchinsons, Ezra Taylors, blah 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 blah. Then you've got your Craig Richardses, Dan Aziz. Those two names, Craig Richards and Dan Aziz, have been mentioned with Ben Whittaker in the past 6 months or so. I want you to tell me, would you favour Ben Whittaker to beat both Craig Richards and Dan Aziz if he were to fight one of them next?
Oh, you know what? I think that'd be the sort of fight that I think, we almost kind of see where Ben Whittaker is, frankly. I think, like you said, I think this Gavazi fight is really where we're going to see where Ben Whittaker is. I actually think, taking both in turn, I think both Richards and Dan Aziz are a level above Ben Whittaker currently. I think you'd have to, if I sat here and said that I think he'd beat either of them, I'd actually be lying. I think you look at like Dan Aziz, obviously he's got, both guys obviously been in with Boatsi. Dan Aziz has beaten Fielding, beaten Shaq and Pitters, names like that. as you know, Craig Richards again been distance with Buatsi, went the distance with Willie Hutchinson. Like, you know, like I've granted he lost those fights, but still you look at it and you go, would I back, you know, went the distance with Bivol as well, for God's sake, would I back would I back Whittaker to beat those guys? I probably wouldn't. I think he'd have to go on points, to be honest with you. But I think if he did, I think the golfing class between those sort of names and the names that he has been fighting is actually quite substantial. And I think it'd be very, very risky actually if he went in with either of those guys next, to be perfectly honest with you. And I would actually back both of them to beat Ben Whittaker currently. Unless Ben Whittaker comes in and puts a stellar performance, then we need to see some names really. We haven't seen it. I know he's only 28 and he's like he hasn't got many fights in his record, but to sort of talk about him in the same sentence as those other guys for me just doesn't seem like it's common sense at this stage.
Yeah, interesting, mate. Very interesting. I completely see the point you've made. Suppose you're just we're going off what we've actually seen in the ring, so I can understand why you would be backing Craig Richards or Dan Aziz to beat when you look at their resume compared to Ben Whittaker's. Yeah, totally. I do think that although he doesn't have the names on his record, I do think Ben Whittaker is perhaps past that level. I think the Craig Richards fight makes total sense. Craig Richards is still
Mm.
a matchroom fighter. I know a lot of the other light heavyweights are with Frank Warren over at Queensbury, but Craig Richards is very much still with Eddie Hearn and matchroom. Ben Whittaker, obviously, we know with them as well. That fight makes total sense. Next, if he beats Benjamin Gavazi, which we're expecting him to do early in the new year, February, March time, whatever it is, there's no reason why Whittaker and Craig Richards can't throw down. And it's a real good measuring stick to see where he is then, because as you said, Craig Richards has been in with some really good guys. He gave, he did, obviously didn't win the fight, but like he posed a bit of a question to Bivol, which is just show and like Bivol's the best light heavyweight in the world, so it just goes to show the level there. Yeah, he has a couple of other defeats, but yeah, Craig Richards would be an acid test for Ben Whittaker, and it's a fight that makes sense. I can see it happening early next year, and it really, it makes sense for both fighters. It makes sense for Ben Whittaker's sake because we want to see where he is. It makes sense for Craig Richards' sake because I'd reckon he'd probably get paid quite a lot of money for that fight.
Mhm.
And also there's still a massive chance that he could win it, so it would even open up more doors for him. So yeah, I think the fight makes sense. Just before we round off, mate, one more question I want to ask you, and I think you know what's coming. Um, Sitting here, right now, if I was to ask you, will Ben Whittaker ever win a world title? What are you going to say?
Well, I'm gonna say that's a brutal question, Paul. First and foremost, I think like he's 28 years old, so time is still on his side to a degree. But that's actually becoming well, that is a good division, isn't it? Like, obviously it's been dominated by Bivol and Beterbiev, but you've got obviously you mentioned the domestic scene with Callum Smith, Yard, Buatsi. You've also got Beterbiev, obviously, is a massive. Sorry, Benavidez, obviously a massive name up there. Pacheco possibly going up there as well. I think for me, he could possibly win a world title, but he needs some favourable matchmaking. I'm not sure he's going to beat any of those other names that we've just kind of mentioned. Unless, maybe get some on the decline, frankly. But Bivol's still quite young, so Bivol wants to reign over that division. He probably could for some years to come as well. I think Dan Aziz with Matchroom has got a chance to get a kind of favourable title shot, maybe against maybe a vacant belt or pick up something like that. But I don't think he's going to beat Benavidez. I don't think he's going to beat Bivol. I wouldn't have him beating obviously Beterbiev. I think he'll outlast Beterbiev obviously with age, so he wouldn't necessarily have to fight him. And I think out of those UK guys, depends how long he'll go on for really, but I think, at the moment he's not necessarily in that class. So we need to have a couple of sort of standout victories before we sort of put him in with those guys. So I think the answer is probably yes, but with favourable matchmaking is kind of where my gut is.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. You've taken the words out of my mouth. I'm going yes, but only if he gets the favorable matchups. By the time he's fighting for world titles, if he gets to that level, the likes of Beterbiev, Bivol won't be here. Smith even. So I think could get favorable matchups, a vacant title, whatever it is. I think Ben Whittaker could become world champion as well. Yeah, I'm not going to sit here and say that definitely happens, but I can definitely see a world in which the surgeon becomes world champion. But yeah, that's all we've got time for this week, unfortunately. Elliot, appreciate your time as always, mate. Thank you for tuning in, guys. Thanks for watching. Yeah, as I said at the start, subscribe to the YouTube channel, like the video, let us know in the comments what your thoughts on Ben Whittaker and what we've just discussed. And yeah, we've got all of your boxing needs up and under one roof, so please do check out the channel. Elliot, pleasure as always, mate. Thank you for your thoughts. Thank you for doing that preview with me, and I'll speak to you again very soon.
Thank you very much, Paul. As always, guys, thank you very much for watching.